Hello students, I'm Dr. Krupa Rasne, Professor and Head ENC, Jain College of Engineering, Belgavi. So this is basically the 10th video of the module 3 in the subject of power electronics for the 7th semester ENC students. So as we know, we are dealing with the module 3 and hence we are now looking into the AC voltage controller. Okay, and the textbook that we are referring would be Mohammad Rashid, Power Electronic Circuit Devices and Applications, as in the earlier videos. So looking into the content, we have already dealt with AC voltage controllers, the types of AC controllers, application of AC voltage controllers. We have looked into the on-off control type of AC voltage controller. Then we came to principles of phase control, in which we have dealt with half wave control. And also we have looked into single phase full converter controller with a resistive load. In this particular video, we'll be looking into the single phase full controller with inductive loads. And the remaining part, that is the performance parameters and an example, will be dealt with in the next video. So let us now look into the single phase full wave AC voltage controller with RL load. So when we say full wave AC voltage controller, obviously we are looking into controlling a fixed AC voltage to a variable AC voltage, and in this case the load is going to be RL. So we have connected RL here. And how do I control the fixed AC voltage to a variable AC voltage? In the full wave, I am going to use two anti-parallel SCRs as connected here, T1 and T2, and we know that T1 can carry the current in this direction, whereas T2 can carry the current in this direction. So two SCRs carrying two currents in opposite direction, but obviously not at the same time. So when T1 is conducting, T2 is not conducting, and when T2 is conducting, T1 is not conducting. But both the thyristors are connected to the load, so they act like a switch. So when any one of them is connected, the load automatically gets connected to the input, and whatever is at the input at that instant of time, you are going to get at the output, that is at the load side. Okay. So a single phase full wave AC voltage controller, or it's also called as a bidirectional controller with an RL load, is used in this case with two thyristors T1 and T2 and are connected in parallel as shown in this particular figure. So in place of two resistors, see, I can replace it with a single triac. So triac is itself a bidirectional device, and instead of using two thyristors, I can use a single thyristors. I explained this during the R load. So the same thing can be used for the RL load. Okay. And whatever is the functionality, that is input fixed AC to fixed DC at the output, can be got using the triac. So in most practical cases, the loads are going to be RL type. See, when I say an heater, obviously heater is a resistive load, but when I'm connecting a motor is going to be an RL type of load. Example, the fan that is connected on the ceiling or on the pedestal, it is also a motor driven, and hence it's an RL load. So for example, if we consider a single phase full wave AC voltage controller controlling the speed of a single phase AC induction motor, the load, which is the induction motor winding, is an RL type of load, where R represents the motor winding resistance and L represents the motor winding inductance. So the thyristor T1, as I have shown in the earlier circuit, is forward biased during the positive half cycle of the input supply. So let us assume that T1, though it is forward biased at t equal to 0, it will get a triggering pulse only at an angle of omega t equal to alpha. So let us assume that T1 is triggered at an angle omega t equal to alpha by applying a suitable gate trigger pulse to T1 during the positive half cycle of the input supply. The output voltage across the load follows the input supply when T1 is on. As I said, they are acting like a switch. So when T1 is on at omega t equal to alpha, the input supply voltage gets connected to the load, that is the RL load. The load current I0 flows through the thyristor T1 and through the load in the downward direction, from top to bottom, that is, and the load current pulse flowing from T1 can be considered as the positive current pulse. So when T1 conducts, it will conduct with the positive current, that is, the current flowing through the load will be from top to bottom. Due to the inductance in the load current I0 flowing through T1 would not fall to 0 at omega t equal to pi when the input supply voltage starts to become negative. So when the positive cycle ends, the input supply is going to go to the negative cycle. The minute it goes to negative cycle, T1 is supposed to be reverse biased and turn off. But that does not happen because the load is inductive. The inductive load will have certain energy stored in it, which in fact will keep the T1 to continue to conduct for some more period even after it is reverse biased in the negative cycle. So the thyristor T1 will continue to conduct the load current until all the inductive energy stored in the load inductor L is completely utilized, or it is discharged, we can say. And the load current through T1 falls to 0 at an angle omega t equal to beta. We'll see this in the waveform again, where beta is referred to as the extinction angle, because at this point the current through the T1 will have stopped flowing and the inductor will have completely discharged its energy, which is the value of omega t at which the load current falls to 0. So the extinction angle beta is measured from the point of the beginning of the positive half cycle of the input supply to the point where the load current falls to 0. The thyristor T1 conducts from omega t equal to alpha to beta. The conduction angle T1 is then, as we can call this as delta, which is equal to beta minus alpha, which depends on the delay angle alpha and the load impedance phi. So this conduction angle, which is nothing but the difference between beta minus alpha. Alpha is a triggering point and beta is the point at which the current becomes 0. The waveform of the input voltage, the gate triggering for T1 and T2, and the thyristor current, the load current, the voltage waveforms are going to be shown in the next slide. So here we see that the input is given to the circuit, which is an AC supply, and we are giving the gate trigger pulse for the thyristor T1. We call it as G1. So this is the gate pulse for T1 and it is given, appears at an angle alpha. Okay, so this is the angle at which it has been triggered. Similarly, I have to give another gate pulse for T2, which becomes forward bias during the negative half cycle, and that angle at which we are giving the triggering pulse is at pi plus alpha. Okay, so what happens is when it is forward bias for T1 and it gets a triggering pulse at alpha, it obviously starts to conduct. So I1 will start to conduct, but at pi what happens is the input is going to reverse, and as seen in the resistive load, it is the current should stop at pi, but it does not happen in case of RL load. The current will continue to flow in the positive direction because the thyristor always conducts in one direction only. And whatever, this is because of the inductance that is in the load. It is basically discharging through the thyristor, keeping it or forcing it to remain on for certain duration of time, that is till beta. And since T1 does not carry negative current, it has to carry the positive current. It is going to flow till the angle of beta. And here is the point when it becomes off. And T2, which is already reverse biased, cannot conduct as long as it is triggered. Okay, and also it is anti-parallel with T1, which is already conducting. So till beta, T1 is going to conduct, and when T2 gets the pulse at pi plus alpha, it is going to take the negative current. Again, it is not going to stop at 2 pi because the input has reversed and made it reverse bias to the T2, but it will continue to conduct for some more time, right, from pi plus alpha to 2 pi plus beta, you can say. And what we say is beta is measured from 0. So from 0 to this is beta, from 0 this is the alpha, then beta minus alpha is nothing but the conduction angle, that we call it as gamma or delta. Okay, so beta is the extinction angle, and it basically how much the beta will be extended beyond pi basically depends upon the value of inductance. If the inductance value is less, the beta will be not very far from pi. If the inductance value is more, obviously it can store more energy, and hence the discharging time will be increased, and hence angle of beta will be further away from pi. And it also depends upon another angle called as phi, which is basically the phase difference between the supply current and the load current, and we'll look into it in the further slides. This is basically the gating signal that we are given, which I have explained to you. So G1 will be getting a gating pulse, and it can be triggered, it can trigger from 0 to pi. So alpha can vary from 0 to pi for G1, and for G2 it can vary from pi plus alpha to 2 pi. These are the periods during which T1 will be forward biased and T2 will be forward biased. So instead of giving a DC big pulse like this or a DC voltage, we can give the pulses in the form of pulses, because it is more effective way of gating the thyristor or triggering the thyristor. In fact, instead of these pulses, we can use spikes. Okay, by using pulse transformers at the gating circuit, we can use the spikes. Spikes are more reliable, and it can trigger the thyristor at whatever angle you want from 0 to pi in this case, and in this case it will be from pi to 2 pi. So waveforms of single phase full wave AC voltage controller with RL. See, whenever there is an RL load, inductive load, there is going to be a phase shift between the input voltage and the load current. And that angle we call it as phi. And what it says is waveforms of a single phase full wave AC voltage controller with RL load, we are considering alpha to be much greater than the phi. Then in this case, the discontinuous load current operation occurs. So what happens is, if the inductance is not very high, the load current will be conducting till this angle beta, where beta is earlier to the triggering of T2, right? If beta is equal to pi plus alpha, this current will be coming till here, and there will be a continuous current. So in this case, we can see that from beta to pi plus alpha, the load current I0 is 0, which means that the load inductive is not sufficient to conduct till the next firing angle, and we get a discontinuous load current. Okay, so discontinuous load current operation occurs when alpha is greater than phi and beta is less than pi plus alpha. That is, beta minus alpha is less than pi. That is the conduction angle, beta minus alpha is less than pi. So these are the waveforms. Let us look into these waveforms again. So this is the input supply that is being given to the circuit. Okay, and this is the load I have explained. T1 will be forward biased here, T2 will be forward biased here, and when T1 is forward biased, it is triggered at an angle of alpha. So at alpha, it will start to conduct the positive current to the load, okay, and at pi, you're supposed to make this stop conducting at pi. But what happens is, because of the inductive load, the current doesn't stop here and it will continue to conduct till beta. That is during the time when the inductor is basically discharging its stored charges. And since beta is less than pi plus alpha, that is at pi plus alpha, T2 will be forward biased and it will get the triggering pulse. So now it is the time for T2 to start conducting from pi plus alpha. Again, it is supposed to stop conducting at 2 pi because the input supply reverses, but the load inductor will not allow the current to stop and it will force it to conduct till next beta. Okay, so since beta is less than pi plus alpha, you get a region where the load current is 0. Okay, so here you have a load current, here it is 0, again you have a load current, again it is 0. Such type of load currents are called as discontinuous load current, and that happens when alpha is greater than phi, as I have said, or when also the load inductance is very quite small. Okay. Now, if this is the case, let us analyze how the output is going to change. So, as we know, the output is going to come or connected to the input from alpha to beta. And whatever is the input value from alpha till beta, you can see, you can follow my this pointer from alpha. This is input, right? So, from alpha to beta, what is the input? It is this point. It is from here till beta. Okay. So what happens is, from alpha to beta, what is the input? It is going to be same, and that will come at the output. So this is the output waveform, and from alpha to beta, who is going to carry the current? T1. At pi plus alpha, what happens? The input has reversed. So T2 is going to get the firing, forward biased it is T2, and it gets the firing pulse at pi plus alpha. So the switch will turn on at pi plus alpha till the next beta, that is 2 pi plus beta, let's say. So till the next beta. So the switch is on from pi plus alpha to beta, right? So what it is going to be? It is going to be the same input, right? See, from this point, it will be the same input. It will continue to conduct till this point. So till this point, this is 2 pi, okay, and this is the beta. So whatever is at the input during this time, it is going to come across the load, which we call it as V0 output. So this is the kind of, then again from 2 pi till the next firing angle alpha, nobody is going to carry the current. So this point it will be 0, right? These points are 0 carrying currents, no current through the load. Okay, and again the input, this waveform will repeat for T1 and this waveform will repeat for T2. So this is the output waveform that I am going to get. Obviously, by controlling alpha from 0 to pi and even the gating signal for T2, right, from pi to 2 pi, I can vary how much of positive. You can see the area here is more as compared to the area in the negative, right? So here the negative area is more as compared to the positive. So what you can see is, we can have a controlled AC voltage by controlling this alpha in the circuit diagram. Okay, so this is basically the voltage across the thyristor. We know that thyristor is acting like a switch, and whenever it is conducting from alpha to beta, the voltage across the thyristor for an ideal switch is to be 0. And when it is not conducting, that is from this point to this point, it is not conducting, right? So it is not conducting from this point to this point. That time it will follow the input voltage. So whatever is here, that is going to come across the thyristor. So we have to understand when the thyristor is going to conduct and when it is not going to conduct. So when it is conducting, obviously the voltage across the thyristor will be 0, and when it is not conducting, the voltage across the thyristor will be whatever is the input voltage that is applied. So that is the external voltage applied to the thyristor. So this is how the explanation for AC voltage control waveform works. So the RMS output voltage. So since we are dealing with AC voltage, we have to deal with RMS value of the output voltage, and the load current may be varied by varying the triggering angle alpha. This circuit, AC RMS voltage controller, can be used to regulate the RMS voltage across the terminal of any AC motor or inductive motor. It can be used to control the temperature of a furnace by varying the RMS output voltage. So for very large inductive load L, the SCR may fail to commutate after it is triggered, and the load voltage will be full sine wave similar to the applied input voltage, and the output load will be controlled, will be lost. So if the beta extends beyond pi plus alpha, then the T1 will conduct till your alpha to beta, and T2 will take over from beta. So I'll get a continuous load current, right? And will be a full sine wave instead of the small breaks or discontinuous load currents that we are getting. Now we will get the continuous load current. But what happens is, if I cannot control the firing angle, obviously then I cannot control the output load voltage. So it is essential to turn on and turn off the thyristor. Then only I can have a control over the output voltage. The load current waveform will appear as a full continuous sine wave, and the load current waveform lags behind the waveform by a load power factor angle phi. As I told you, inductive load, there is a phase difference between the input supply voltage and the load current. So coming to the summary of today's video, we have been looking into principle of phase control, full controller, but with the inductive load. And we have understood how a full controller delivers a variable AC voltage to an inductive load such as a motor, and how the waveforms at the output appear, and how alpha can be controlled, the triggering angle from your 0 to pi. So I thank you, and if you have any questions, do get back to me. Thank you so much.